So my people, there's serious talk going on right now about the reaction from some northern groups in Nigeria after hearing that the US government may be planning to take action against terrorism in Nigeria. These groups are not taking it lightly at all. They are speaking strongly and even calling out IPOB supporters, saying that some of them are the ones spreading wrong stories online just to get the attention of the United States. Before we go deeper, please don't forget to like this video right now and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates.
Threatened military action against Nigeria under the false pretext of a so-called genocide against Christians. This statement is not only ignorant, it is dangerous. It distorts Nigerians' complex security realities and fuels sectarian division that millions of peace-loving citizens are struggling to overcome. We are compelled to respond to the reckless, arrogant, and deeply provocative remarks by US President Donald J. Trump, who threatened military action against Nigeria under the false pretext of a so-called genocide against Christians. This statement is not only ignorant, it is dangerous. It distorts Nigerians' complex security realities and fuels sectarian division that millions of peace-loving citizens are struggling to overcome. The context of Trump's threats. Trump's outburst followed a manipulated petition engineered by Amnesty International using the voice of its Nigerian country director Isa Sanusi, cynically deployed to give credibility to a toxic Western narrative. This petition, dressed up as human rights advocacy, is part of a broader campaign to vilify Nigeria and justify foreign interference under humanitarian pretense. Let us be clear, there is no genocide against Christians in Nigeria. There is a national security crisis affecting all Nigerians, Muslims, Christians, and others alike. The flawed Christian genocide narrative. The CNG rejects the false and divisive narrative that violence in Nigeria is religiously one-sided. The data tells a very different story. According to verified figures from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project ACLED, between January 2020 and September 2025, over 20,400 civilians have been killed in violent attacks across Nigeria. Of the reported incidents where religion could be verified, 317 Christian deaths and 417 Muslim deaths were recorded. The figures
continues to unfold. Now, here's the full gist. From what's going on, the northern groups are not happy with what they describe as interference from foreign powers. They believe that if the US government truly wants to help Nigeria fight terrorism, it should do that directly with the Nigerian government and not base its decisions on reports or letters coming from IPOB or any separatist group. Remember, IPOB has been pushing the international community to pay attention to what they call the persecution of their members in the Southeast. And they've even written to US leaders in the past to look into alleged human rights issues in Nigeria. That alone has now created tension between IPOB and these northern groups. The northern groups are basically saying, wait, we in the north have faced terrorism for more than 10 years. We've lost so many people to Boko Haram and ISWAP, yet nobody in America or Europe is calling for intervention on our behalf. So why is it now that when IPOB shouts, the US Britain suddenly wants to act? That's the feeling many of them are expressing, that the North has been the main victim of terror, yet it looks like attention only comes when the South or certain groups raise their voice internationally. Now you can see why this matter is hot, because if the US moves without carrying everyone along, it can look like they are taking sides, and that can make the situation even more complicated. Please, if you're following this story, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, because as new reactions come in, we'll be breaking it down together so you understand the real picture. According to reports, what sparked this whole tension was when some IPOB supporters online celebrated the idea that the US government might be ready to deal with terrorism in Nigeria.
Debunked the Western media's exaggerated portrayal of Christians as exclusive victims. The majority of victims in northern Nigeria, from Zamfara to Borno, Katsina to Sokoto, are Muslims attacked in mosques, markets, roadside, and IDP camps. Recent data underscores this reality even further. According to the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project ACLED, An estimated 9,662 people were killed in violent incidents across Nigeria in 2024 alone, with a staggering 86% of those days occurring in the northern region, 41% in the northwest, 25.9% in the northeast, and 19.3% in the north central. These figures expose the gross imbalance in Western media narratives that focus almost exclusively on Christian victims while ignoring the scale of devastation endured by predominantly Muslim northern communities. As security analyst Bulama Bukarati warned in October 2025, changing service chiefs without reforms won't solve Nigerians' insecurity challenge. The crisis has evolved beyond personal swaps. His statement reflects a growing consensus that Nigerians' tragedy is one of leadership failure and institutional weakness, not a religious war. He earlier observed that Boko Haram and ISWAP kill Muslims and Christians alike, but their largest victims are Muslims by far. This hypocrisy must end. Nigerians' pain must not be filtered through a Western religious lens. The brutal reality on the ground, to underscore the tragic reality deliberately ignored by foreign propagandists, on January 11, 2025, bandits killed 21 people in Aure, Katsina State. On 19 August 2025, gunmen stormed a mosque in Malampashi during dawn prayers and slaughtered over 50 worshippers. In Zamfara State, between March and October 2025, dozens were killed in repeated attacks across Anka, Maru, and Tsape local government areas. Yet, none of these atrocities made international headlines because the victims were.
But northern groups interpreted that as propaganda, saying IPOB is trying to use the US to put pressure on the Nigerian government or even weaken Nigeria's image globally. They see it as a political game, one that might hurt national unity if not handled carefully. From a bigger view, you can see that everyone has their own fear. The US wants to fight terrorism and ensure peace. IPOB says they want justice and freedom. Northern groups say they want fairness and equal treatment. The Nigerian government just wants to keep control and avoid foreign interference. So it's like a circle of different voices talking at the same time, each one trying to prove a point. The funny thing is, even though they are all shouting in different directions, they're actually talking about the same issue: security. Everyone wants Nigeria to be safe, but they don't agree on how that safety should come or who should bring it. And that's what makes this story very delicate. If you look closely, northern groups are saying, how can you call for the US to act when we have our own security forces here? They are worried that if a foreign country starts to play a strong role, it might weaken local confidence or even bring new political problems. They remember how external interference has affected other African countries. They are saying, we don't want to become another Libya or Sudan situation where foreign powers came in and things scattered. So they want the US to be careful and work with the Nigerian government only, not with any private or separatist agenda. At the same time, IPOB supporters argue that they are only calling for justice, that their people have been victims too. And they believe the international community has a duty to speak up when there are abuses. They claim that if the Nigerian government has nothing to hide, then they should not be afraid of foreign investigation or resistance. That's IPOB's own point. So you can see the clash. The North is defending national pride and unity. IPOB is asking for recognition and fairness, and the US is trying to act against terrorism. But between these three, the argument has become something deeper than just terrorism. It's now about trust and control. As a viewer, you may be wondering, who is right? Well, the truth is that both sides are making points that are worth listening to. Northern Nigeria has suffered deeply from terrorist attacks, from Borno to Yobe to Zamfara, and the people there deserve more global attention. On the other hand, IPOB and many people in the Southeast also want to feel heard.
We are Muslims, not Christians. These are not isolated incidents. They represent the daily horror faced by ordinary Muslims in rural communities whose days rarely make international headlines. No discussion of selective outrage is complete without recalling the Zaria massacre of December 12 to 14, 2015, when over 340 members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, IMN, Mostly Shiite Muslims, including women and children, were killed. Even after Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch documented the atrocity with satellite imagery and mass grave evidence, no US administration, including Trump's, ever condemned the killings because the victims were Muslims. This silence further exposes the double standard of Western government and their selective morality in Nigerian affairs. The IPOB factor, a false victimhood. While foreign actors romanticize the indigenous people of Biafra as victims, they conveniently ignore IPOB's atrocities, the murder of northern traders, burning of vehicles, and violent enforcement of sit-at-home orders that have crippled livelihoods in the southeast. Over 600 northerners have been killed in IPOB-related attacks since 2021, according to independent security monitors. Yet, Trump and his enablers choose silence because it does not fit their prepackaged narrative. Foreign manipulation and hidden motives. The claim of a Christian genocide is not a misunderstanding, it is a strategic deception.
About the challenges they face. So maybe the solution is not about choosing one side, but finding a way for all regions to speak together with fairness and truth. If you agree that Nigeria needs unity and not a division, please like this video right now and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and it also keeps you updated on all sides of the story. Now, beyond this current tension, there's also another side, the issue of perception. The world is watching Nigeria closely, and whatever message gets louder online becomes the one people believe. So if IPOB keeps sending letters abroad and the North keeps responding angrily, the real story may get lost in the middle. That's why some people are calling for dialogue, that instead of exchanging words, both sides should come to the table and talk about what really matters: security, equality, and peace. Because at the end of the day, every region in Nigeria is facing one kind of insecurity or another. The North has terrorism, the Southeast has agitation, the Southwest faces kidnapping and banditry, and the Middle Belt struggles with farmer-herder clashes. It's all connected. So when a foreign power like the US says they want to help, it should be a balanced discussion that includes all Nigerians, not one region over another. And you know what makes this gist even more interesting? It's that while all these statements and reactions are flying, the Nigerian government has not yet made any official harsh comment on the matter. That silence might mean they are watching carefully, trying not to make the situation worse. Sometimes in politics, silence speaks louder than a statement. They might be negotiating quietly behind the scenes. So my people, what do you think? Do you support the idea of the US stepping into Nigeria's fight against terrorism? Or do you believe that foreign involvement always comes with hidden interests? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know your thoughts. And please, if you haven't done so yet, click the like button and subscribe now, because this story is not ending anytime soon, and we'll continue to follow it together. When you look at the bigger picture, you'll see that the main lesson here is about communication. If groups from different parts of Nigeria could stop seeing each other as enemies and start seeing each other as partners, a lot of these misunderstandings would reduce. Terrorism affects everyone, no matter the tribe, religion, or region. So instead of using it to drag one another, the country needs a joint approach where no one feels ignored. And that's the point many ordinary Nigerians are raising. That this whole fight shouldn't be North versus South or government versus IPOB, but Nigeria versus insecurity. Once the focus goes back to that, real progress can happen. So that's the full gist for now. A very serious conversation that's not only about politics, but also about trust, unity, and national image. I'll be watching closely for any new updates from the US, IPOB, or the northern groups. And as soon as anything new drops, you'll hear it right here. Don't forget again to hit that like button and subscribe so you're the first to know when I post the follow-up.
It serves geopolitical interests aimed at destabilizing Nigeria and justifying future interventions. For decades, the United States and its allies have used human rights as camouflage for resource control and political dominance from Iraq to Libya. They create a moral crisis, weaponize global outrage, and then move in under the guise of liberation. Nigeria will not be the next experiment. Trump's sudden concern for persecuted Christians is a smokescreen. His record shows indifference to African lives. What truly offends him is Nigerians' growing diplomatic independence, our increasing ties with China, Russia, and the global south, and our resistance to neo-colonial fragile. Our key observations: predominantly Muslim victims. In states like Zamfara, Sokoto, Katsina, Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, Muslim forms the overwhelming majority of victims. The blood being spilled daily in the news is not the blood of Christian genocide, it is the blood of poor, neglected, defenseless Muslims. Communal and economic roots. Most violent conflicts in northern Nigeria stem from land disputes, poverty, and resource competition, not religion. Turning every tragedy into a Christian persecution narrative insults the truth and hinders real solutions. Government negligence. Successive Nigerian governments have failed to tackle insecurity decisively. Weak leadership, corruption, and lack of empathy have turned vast regions into killing fields. The Nigerian people deserve